So, what's the real difference between a job you just do and a career you truly love? It's not always about the money or the fancy title, it's about meaning. That feeling deep down that what we're doing actually matters. Well, that's one of the most powerful motivators out there. So, let's get into it and figure out how the best leaders don't just assign tasks, they actually build a sense of purpose for their entire team. To really get to the heart of this, I want to take you back to the 1960s. There's this fantastic story from that era that just perfectly sums up the power of having a big, shared goal. You might have heard it before, but hey, it's a classic for a reason, and it really sets the stage for everything we're about to talk about. Okay, so the story goes, President John F. Kennedy is taking a tour of the NASA Space Center. As he's walking around, he spots a man sweeping the floor, and he goes over to introduce himself. He asks the janitor pretty simply, "So, what is it that you do here?" Just think about that answer for a second. The power in that. He didn't say, "Oh, I sweep the floors," or "I take out the trash." He didn't see himself as just a janitor. He saw himself as part of the mission. His work, no matter how small it seemed, was a crucial piece of this incredible history-making goal. I mean, that's the perfect example of how amazing leadership can connect every single person to a huge purpose. Now, that NASA story, it's not just some old feel-good tale. It's a lesson that is, frankly, more important today than it has ever been. In today's workplace, people are searching for more than just a paycheck. They really want to know that all those hours they're putting in actually mean something, that their work is adding up to something bigger than themselves. So here's the bottom line. Yeah, money can get someone to accept a job offer, but it's not going to be what keeps them there. And it definitely won't guarantee they'll give it their all. Research shows this again and again. A lawyer making a ton of money isn't automatically more satisfied or engaged than, say, a designer making a lot less. At the end of the day, purpose and meaning, that's what drives real effort and loyalty. And listen, the benefits they're huge for everybody. When people feel their work is meaningful, they literally report being healthier and more engaged. They bounce back faster when things go wrong because they see mistakes as a chance to learn, not as a failure. And for the company, well, this all leads to better financial performance. It turns out the most successful companies aren't just the most profitable, they're also the ones where people love to work. Okay, so the big question is, how do you do it? How do you actually become that kind of leader who creates that man on the moon feeling in your own team? Well, it's not about just giving a few rah-rah speeches. Research points to 4 very specific personality traits that these kinds of leaders all seem to share. Let's break them down. All right, here they are. Curiosity, being challenging, hiring for values, and being trusting. These are the 4 keys we're going to dive into. We'll take a look at each one because really understanding them is the first step to making them a part of how you lead. First up, curiosity. And this isn't just about, being interested in random things. In leadership, curiosity is a tool. It's how you explore what's possible and get your team excited to do the same. So a curious leader, they don't just bark orders. They ask questions. They encourage new ideas because it keeps work from getting boring and repetitive. And instead of micromanaging every little thing, they actually give their team the space to figure things out. That helps every single person discover their own unique way of contributing to the mission. All right, the second key is all about being challenging. Now, this doesn't mean being a jerk or being difficult. It's about constantly pushing for improvement and never just settling for good enough. This is what creates that real, tangible sense of progress. Complacency is pretty much the enemy of meaning. A great leader knows this, and they're always fighting against that urge to just coast. They're always asking, what's next? This creates a culture of growth and reinvention where people feel like they're always getting better and achieving more. And that feeling is an incredibly powerful source of meaning. Third, it's about who you let on the bus in the first place. Meaningful leadership really starts with hiring people whose own personal values line up with the company's culture. Just think of your values as your own internal compass. When an employee's personal compass is pointing in the same direction as the company's, their work just naturally feels more important and valuable to them. And that's exactly why it's often way better to hire for that cultural fit, rather than just grabbing the person with the best resume. It helps build a really tight-knit team where people feel a real connection to each other and to what they're all trying to achieve. And that brings us to our fourth and final key, which honestly might be the one that holds this whole thing together. Trust. Trust is the foundation. It's what allows your people to really take ownership of their work. I mean, let's be real. Nobody finds meaning when their boss is breathing down their neck. Leaders who trust their team give them room to try new things, to experiment, and yeah, even to fail sometimes. This allows for something called job crafting, which is just a fancy way of saying people get to customize their roles a bit. For instance, a salesperson who discovers they love public speaking might start leading some training sessions. When you trust someone enough to let them shape their own job, you're basically telling them, hey, what you bring to the table is unique and valuable. Okay, now this next part is absolutely critical. These 4 traits, they're not just a checklist you can tick off one by one. They have to exist in a careful balance because each one makes the others stronger. If they get out of whack, the whole system can really fall apart. Just take a look at these 2 scenarios. On one side, you have a leader who's really challenging, but has zero curiosity. That person doesn't inspire anyone. They just come across as a bully who's pushing their own agenda. Then on the other side, you've got a leader who's super trusting, but never challenges anyone. That's not empowering. That's just being a pushover, and the whole team just stagnates. You see? You need both sides of the coin. It's the combination of these traits that creates a truly meaningful place to work. And this brings us to one last really important point. The goal here isn't just to make everyone happy. Honestly, constant happiness can sometimes lead to complacency. The real goal is to make people engaged. Engagement is about that drive, that motivation, that feeling of finding real satisfaction in what you've achieved. And that's what drives amazing performance. So it all comes back to that cleaner at NASA and that incredible sense of purpose he had. The big question for any of us in a leadership role is, how can we create that same kind of clarity and connection for our own teams? So I'll just leave you with this thought. What is that big, ambitious mission that pulls all your team's different efforts together? What's the why behind all the daily tasks? As a leader, maybe your most important job is simply to help every single person on your team, no matter what their role is, to see the answer to that question. So, what's the moonshot you're helping them see?